Hello, my amazing Algebra Half students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. Today, we're talking about Lesson 21 in your Blue Book, and we are talking about average. And average is a term that we use an awfully lot in mathematics. It is the sum of all of the items divided by the number of items that we have, and that is the average. That's a good definition of the average. And we will also find out that if we know the average, we also will be able to find the sum, because if we went backwards, average times number of items would give us the sum, because multiplication and division undo each other, don't they? So the sum is the average times the number of items. They have a very good picture of this in your book. Okay, so here they've given an illustration. We have 4 piles of pancakes as shown here. We have 1 in the first pile, 2 in the second pile, 4 in the third pile, 5 in the fourth pile. And altogether, when you add all of those up, we have 12 pancakes. If we divided the 12 pancakes among 4 people evenly, then we would have 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, still equaling 12 pancakes, but it would be a lot more fair to the person who didn't have but 1, right? This person over here has got 5 pancakes, and he really should share with some of the others. So the average is the number of pancakes that each person would have if we had 4 equal stacks instead of 4 unequal stacks. So that's a good picture of the average. So if we wanted to know the number of pancakes we have all together, we would just multiply the average, which is 3, by the number of stacks, which is 4, and get 12, which is the number that we had total. Here's our first example. They've given us 4 numbers, and they're quite different numbers, aren't they? 1,765, 93, 742, and 21,050. Okay, so those are quite different numbers, and the average is going to be quite large because we have this very large number in it. But the average will evenly spread these numbers out, won't it? So we add all the numbers up to get the sum of the numbers. And the sum of the numbers is 23,650. So you should do that math, all right? But that is the sum. And then we divide the sum by the number of items that we had. Well, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 items. So the number of items is 4. And we're going to divide 23,650 by 4, so you're going to have to do that with long division, and then we wind up getting 5,912 and a half, or 0.5. So that is the average. So if we wanted to know the sum, we could take that number, multiply it by 4, and we would get back to the sum. That's your first example. Okay, in example 2, we're going to need to add up all of these numbers. So let's practice a little bit of just our knowledge of numbers to help us to do this easier. Remember, if we can find 2 numbers that go together to make a group of 10 or a multiple of 10, it makes it much easier. So since 8 plus 2 is 10, then 18 plus 2 would be 20, and 18 plus 12 would be 30. So these 2 go together to give us 30. So let's do it a little bit easier here. We already have a 10, so let's write down the 10. So we've gotten that one and that one and that one. Notice that 14 and 6 will go together to make 20. So let's take them and make a 20 and take those and throw those out. And then 17 and 30 will go together because 7 and 3 make 10. So 17 and 13, make 30 again. So we put down the 30 and we take out the 17 and the 30, and we only have an 8. So let's see what we have. So we'll put the 8 down right there because I'm out of room on the other side. So 30 and 30 is 60, plus another 30 is 90, plus an 8. So the sum of all of those numbers is going to be 98. Okay, now we have to say how many numbers am I dividing by? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to divide by 8, which is the number of items. And when we do this, we're going to get our average. So 98 divided by 8. Let's do that one. 8 goes into 9 one time, and 1 times 8 is 8, and we're going to have a 1 left over, and we're going to pull down our 8, and we're going to go 8 into 18 is a 2 with a 16, and we're going to have a remainder 2, but we're going to go ahead and pull out that 2 and divide it by the 8. So we're going to continue it out. It winds up being 2, and 2 divided by 8 is 1/4. 2 and 1/4, or 12 and 1/4, or 12.25. If we extended the decimal, we would have gotten that. So your book doesn't do the multiplication for you or the division for you, but once you get that remainder 2, it would either be 2 divided by 8, which is 1/4, or it would be 2 and then take down and bring down another decimal, and you would get 12.25, which is equivalent to 12 and 1/4. So we will come back now with a third example. This one is our last example, and it's a fun one. The average of 4 numbers is 10. 3 of the 4 numbers are 2, 14, and 7. What is the 4th number? Well, this might seem like a hard puzzle unless we remember that the average of the numbers times the number of numbers that we have gives us the sum of all the numbers. So if we know that the average is 10, but we have 4 numbers, then 10 times 4 is 40. So our total sum is 40. Okay, so the sum of all the numbers must be 40. And right here, we've got 14 plus 2 is 16, and then 16 plus 2 more is, plus 7 more, is 23. So we have 23 that is going to, then we're going to need to add the 4th number to it, and it's going to give us 40 because that's the total sum. So the number that needs to add to 23 to get 40, we could find that by subtracting 43 minus 40 minus 23 is 17. So the 4th number is 17, and it's really not hard to do at all, is it? Here's your first practice problem. So we're going to add and then divide by 3, right? So we take the sum of the numbers and then we divide by the number of numbers. So we're going to divide by 3. So pause your video. Okay, hopefully you paused your video. I'm writing down our numbers here. And remember, when I'm adding decimals, I must line up my decimal place. Okay, so here we have 5 plus 5 is 10. So we're going to carry our 1 over there, and then we've got a 4 and a 6 make a 10, plus an 8 is 18. And then I have a 15 plus 1 is 16, and a 2. So my total, or my sum, is 268, and I'm going to divide that by 3, because that's the number of numbers that I have. So here we go. 3 goes into 26 8 times. 8 times 3 is 24. And subtract and get 2. Bring down my 8. 3 into 28 is going to be 9. 9 times 3 is 27. And we wind up with a 1. And when we bring down the 10, and we put a decimal there, we're going to have 3 goes into 10 3 times, and 3 times 3 is 9. I've got a 1 again, so I'm going to wind up having 89.33333. This is a repeating decimal. So 89.3 repeating would be the average. This one is a fun one. We have the average of four numbers is 100.1. Okay, and we have been given three of the numbers. We have to find the fourth one. This one is one of your practice problems. So look at that carefully and pause your video. Okay, I hope you paused your video and found your answer. Now we know that if the average of four numbers is 101, then we can take the average times the number of numbers and we can come up with the sum. So the sum is going to be 100.1 times 4, which is going to give us 400.4. Okay, so now if we want to know what this number is, can we not just find the sum of these three and subtract it from the total sum? So if I add up these numbers, I'm going to have, we'll do it right here, 24.2, 13.5, 48.7. Okay, so we've got here a 7 plus a 7 is going to be a 14. And my decimal comes down because it's all nicely lined up like that. And I've got an 8 plus a 4 is a 12 plus another 4 is a 16. Okay, carry my 1 over there. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the sum of the three numbers is 86.4. So this right here is 86.4. And then I need my fourth number to add to 400.4. So my fourth number is going to be quite big, isn't it? So we're going to subtract 400, take away 86.4, and we will subtract and get a 0. And we're going to come over here and borrow or rename, whatever you call it. 10 take away 6 is 4. 9 take away 8 is 1. 314 is a very big fourth number. But we should know it has to be very big because we have 400.6. The average is 100.1, and the average is much bigger than any of the three numbers we already know. So basically, think of those stacks of pancakes. We ought to have a whole bunch of pancakes in that last stack in order to be able to give each of the four people 100.1 pancakes. So this number's got to be pretty big. It's a whopper because we have to be able to bring that number has to bring each one of the stacks up to 100.1. Okay, this last practice problem says the first four items cost $5.21 and $7.42 and $8.64 and $9.23. So then it says, what is the average cost per item? That's simply going to be the average of all of the items. Okay, so we have four items and we're going to find the sum. Pause your video. Okay, so here we go. We have a 3 plus a 4 is a 7 plus another 3 is a 10. We're going to carry our 1, and we have a 6 and a 4 that make a 10, and then we have a 2 plus 2 plus 1 makes 5, so 15. And we bring down our decimal because it's all nicely lined up. And then we've got a 9 and a 1 makes a 10, and a 7 and a 8 make a 15, plus the 5 make 20. 20 plus 10 is 30. Okay, so that's the sum, is $30.50 is the sum. So $30.50 is the sum, and we're going to divide that by the four items. And 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. We bring down our difference there of 2, and we're going to bring down our 5. I'm going to go ahead and put our decimal there, and that just was the mark on my board. So we have 25 divided by 4, and that's going to be 6 times 4 is 24. And then we have 1 left over and a 0. 4 goes into 10, and that's going to be 2 times 8 2 times 4 is 8, and we would have 2, which would be 2. When we brought it down to 20, we would end up going in 5 times, so we would have 7.625. And since we round off money to 2 decimal places, we're going to round the 2 up to be $7.63. So when we have a leftover that bumps it up over the 5 mark, then we have to add another penny. And that is the last of our lesson 21. And I think we're finally caught up with where we should be. And this is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.